Hey, I'm Tommy, and this is the Nikon Z6. I've had this camera for a few months now, and I finally decided it's time for me to do my full review. Before we jump into this, I want you to know that my perspective is that you do not need to go buy a brand new camera in order to make good content. In fact, I discourage that. One of my most recent videos was filmed on a $300 camera off eBay. You don't need a brand new camera to make great content. In fact, any camera released after 2013 is probably more than adequate for YouTube content creation if that is your goal. And if that is your goal, I would recommend, if you already have a camera, that you maybe learn a little bit about sound or lighting, for instance, because learning how to light your videos or how to make them sound better is knowledge that will follow you through different camera bodies into the future. A new camera is not going to fix your videos. However, I am also a bit of a camera nerd, and there are lots of things I like about the new Nikon Z6, and there's a few things I don't like about it. So let's get into the specs. So I'm gonna start with the things I don't like about the Z6, just so we can get them out of the way. Number one, of course, is there's no flip out screen. It's got this kind of partially flippy thing that's just up and down, but there's no side to side, so if you're trying to film yourself or vlog or whatever, you can't really do that. You need to get a separate monitor. Number two is, even though it has a mic in jack, and it has some fairly advanced options for configuring the way the microphone that's plugged into the camera works, the preamps inside the Z6 are not that great compared to the competition. I mean, they're better than what we've had several years ago, but they're not up to par for what is in cameras today. So if you want crispy audio, it's a good idea to record it separately or externally, which is kind of a bummer. When you're configuring the camera for video, and though it is marketed as one of the best mirrorless video cameras, there's no setting for bitrate as far as the numbers are concerned. There is a video quality setting, which is high or low, but there's no numbers with bit rates to select like all of the other cameras do. So you never know what bitrate you're recording in, and if you're into recording video and you're looking for features like external 10-bit 422 and ProRes and all that crap, bitrate is a really important number, and it's weird they don't tell you what bitrate you're recording in. Another thing I don't really like is that although eye autofocus is on the Nikon Z6 now, it doesn't work in video mode. Eye autofocus, when they announced it, seemed like a really big deal, but it was kind of buried away in the update that it doesn't work in video. And what kind of review would this be of the Z6 if I didn't actually use it to record part of this video? So anyways, right now I'm on the Z6 with the 14-30 f4 and the DD VMic D3 Pro, their hot shoe mountable microphone. Another thing I really don't like about the Z6, which I think is kind of an oversight really, is to enable N-Log, which is Nikon's version of log footage. You have to go into the menu settings. It's not just another one of their picture profiles. You actually have to go all the way into the settings and then enable 10-bit recording over HDMI, and then enable N-Log. And then you find out that you can only record, and when you're recording in N-Log, you can only record N-Log to your external recorder over HDMI. You cannot also record simultaneously onto the internal XQD cards, which I don't really like that, and it's really a hassle to enable and disable N-Log in that regard. The final thing that I don't really like about the Nikon Z6 is if you're coming from a camera that uses SD cards, you're going to have to get XQD cards, and they are significantly more expensive than SD cards. Now let's talk about some of the good things. Alright, so number one, and probably the most important thing, is it's a 4K camera and it's full frame. You can record in 4K at 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second with no crop. And it has phase detect autofocus, which works great even when recording 4K. And the autofocus still works really well while recording in slow motion. Something that I noticed that's kind of weird is there's two different ways to record in 120 frames per second. One is you can go to 5x slow motion, which will record a file that is already slowed down for you, or you can record 120p and then slow it down in post. If you go to the 5x slow motion, it lowers the bit rate a lot, and so you are more likely to have, artifacts or problems grading that file. But if you record in 120p, it records at a much higher bit rate. That's kind of weird, but it's good to know. Something I really like about the Z6 is the flat profile is amazing. It works perfectly for me. It does exactly what I want it to do. I like to have my images have some color in them, but also be a little bit flat so I can decide to either add some contrast or grade it a little bit either way. I don't really like to work with log footage that much anyways, so what I usually do is I record in the flat profile. Another thing I really like about the Z6 is it has in-body image stabilization and it works exceptionally well. I would say it works almost as good as the in-body image stabilization on my GH5. So that means wherever you bring this camera, you don't necessarily need to bring a gimbal with you. It's possible to get really good looking handheld shots. And if you're vlogging with it or something, you don't necessarily need to worry about it looking like it was recorded on a cell phone because of the rolling shutter effect that not having stabilization would emphasize. And because of all those things combined, the 4K, the great autofocus, and this in-body image stabilization, the Z6 has become my go-to and favorite camera for anything that I do that's handheld. Now, another thing I really like about the Z6 is its low light capabilities. Not a lot of people are aware that the Z6 is like basically on par with some of the more recent Sony cameras as far as the ISO performance can go. You can go all the way up to like ISO 10,000 and the footage is perfectly usable, which is way better than my GH5 and the X-T3, which is my favorite APS-C camera. All right, so right now this image is being recorded off the Z6 at ISO 10,000. And it's not recording log footage or anything, it's just a flat profile recorded internally into the XQD card. And this is what it looks like. I haven't done any grading on this particular shot. And in my opinion, this is a perfectly usable image. Much better than I would have gotten off of my X-T3 or my GH5. Right now we're at ISO 3200, which is perfectly usable. It looks great. There's hardly any noise. And 3200 is about as high as I would normally ever really need to go anyways. At the end of the day, my favorite Micro Four Thirds camera has been the GH5. I still use that all the time. My favorite APS-C camera is the Fujifilm X-T3, and my favorite full frame is the Nikon Z6. I may be biased because I own those cameras now, and if I had gone the Canon route, I might have some nice things to say about it. All the crop factors and the problems they have with autofocus when doing 4K and, just Canon's whole ecosystem is something I really don't want to become invested in. Nikon seems like a really wise mirrorless investment because they're throwing everything they have at these cameras. They don't have a professional cinema camera line to cannibalize from. They're going all in with their Z series, and so that's something to consider if you're investing into the Nikon system. And now we're back down to ISO 800, which is what I normally keep the Z6 at. So I've taken the Z6 around and showed it to a few of my friends and other YouTubers and such, people that aren't really familiar with Nikon's ecosystem, and everyone that I've shown it to has been just basically super impressed with it. It's got a really great autofocus tracking feature where you can just click the OK button and then a little box shows up in the center of the screen. You place the tracking marker on what you want the autofocus to track and then you hit OK again. And then you can move the camera around really easily and it will keep that object in focus with pretty great precision for what cameras are able to offer today. So the autofocus is great, the stabilization is great, it's very easy to pick up and start using to create good looking images. And that's one of the most important things I think exists about this camera compared to some of the other cameras that I use. I know on the GH5 it took me several weeks worth of figuring out the settings in order to get the image to look the way that I wanted. But with the Nikon Z6, I just put the image quality to high and then put it in the flat image profile and it looks exactly the way I like it to look. One of the more important things about cameras today is if you're gonna get a new camera system is how quickly can you pick it up and start creating. Something I don't hear a lot of people talking about with the Nikon Z6 is SnapBridge. The combination of SnapBridge and the Z6 has made the Z6 my favorite camera for Instagram photography. What I mean by that is when I'm doing a tech review or something or looking at new equipment, I like to take a photo once in a while and throw it on my Instagram for you guys. It used to be kind of a pain in the butt because I would take a picture with whatever camera and then I would take the SD card out of the camera and then I would take the SD card and put it in a computer. Then I would take the image off the SD card, put it on the computer, and then airdrop that image onto my phone, and then from the phone I'd go to Instagram and upload it. With SnapBridge, you just turn the camera on, and if you've already paired it with your phone, it just pairs automatically. So you just turn the camera on, take a picture and wait 10 seconds, and then it'll send a 2 megapixel image of whatever you just took to your phone. So you can take a few pictures, then you'll have a bunch of 2 megapixel images on your phone, so your phone's space isn't completely taken up by RAW files or whatever, and you can just take those and upload those for Instagram. I think that that feature was specifically made for publishing stuff online, not necessarily for just previewing the photos you took, because you could just look at those in the back of your camera. So I love the Z6 for managing my Instagram stuff. I think it's awesome. Another thing is, although the XQD cards are pretty expensive right now, the XQD cards are crazy fast. I mean, I can get files off of the XQD cards like 10 times faster than I can of regular SD cards. So even though they're a little bit more expensive, they seem to be a lot faster, and they also feel a lot more durable than any of the other SD cards that I've used. So I'm not really afraid of one of them failing or anything, so I'm not really put off by the single card slot that the Z6 has. So those are the things I really like and the things I really don't like about the Nikon Z6. If you've got some things you really like or things you really don't like about the Nikon system, leave them in the comments. Let's talk about it. I'd like to send a huge thank you out to Adorama, who made this video possible. They are the ones who sent me out the Z6 to review, as well as the 2 lenses that I've previously made videos on. If you want to pick up your own Z6, I put a link over to Adorama in the description of this video, and I'd super appreciate it if you used it. It'll let Adorama know that it wasn't a complete waste of time to send me this gear to review. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.